morning. Welcome back to this morning's Jolt. So we're still looking at Psalm 11 and Nehemiah 6 and connecting those two on yet another level. Actually, I just recognized this. And it's almost as if King David had read the book of Nehemiah and then wrote about it. But that's not possible because King David lived way before Nehemiah. But it's because King David had written about something that does happen in the work of God and does happen in every believer's life to a greater or lesser extent. And it's this, in the Lord I take refuge. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain? Okay, we talked about that. Your faith is not about escapism. Making God your refuge doesn't mean that you have to extricate yourself from life. And yeah, so you understand that. For behold, the wicked bend the bow. They make ready their arrow upon the string to shoot in darkness at the upright in heart. So this is what the enemy does. And it's interesting, like that happens generally, but in this context, it seems that David is actually talking about that whole thing where he says, how can you say to my soul, flee to your mountain? This is an attack by you. You are trying to make me do something stupid to get rid of me. You're trying to turn my faith into a hiding, into a passivity, into something where I am not going to be connected with the world, with your world, and so you don't have to deal with me because I'm an enemy to your faithlessness, your lack of love. I'm an enemy to your godlessness. I am an enemy to your immorality. I represent something precious and and valuable and holy and pure. And you don't like that, and therefore you are throwing this attack at me. And this in Nehemiah's story, as you remember, there was Shemaiah, and this man advised Nehemiah to flee into the temple, to the house of God, and make that his safe room, and be there and hide himself and save his own life. And Nehemiah said in Nehemiah 6:11, but I said, should a man like me flee, and could one such as I go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. I'm not a priest, actually. I am not the high priest. It's not my place to go there. I don't belong there. I cannot just turn it because I am the governor. I cannot just turn it to my advantage. That cannot happen. And then in verse 12, then I perceived that surely God had not sent him, but he uttered his prophecy. Well, he said that this will happen, that you will be killed if you don't do what I say. He uttered his prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. So, Nehemiah here is saying, well, actually my enemies told this guy to say this to me. And it's exactly what David had described there. They have made, they have prepared their arrows, they have prepared their bows, and they shot this attack at Nehemiah. And because he stood with his conviction and he said, no way, Jose, that's not happening. I'm not going into the house of God. It's not my place. I'm not that person. I don't belong there. I cannot make the house of God my personal protection. That's not its function. It's my place of worship also. I love the Lord. So like my relationship with the Lord, I cannot pretend to make it into my own, I don't know, whatever, that's not serving me. I am serving God, actually. That's how I live my life. And yes, actually, God in love does serve us, but that's actually none of my business. No, I serve Him. But because Nehemiah stood with his conviction, he recognized what was actually going on. He didn't get stuck in the dark because he stood with his conviction. And just like David describes, in the Lord I take refuge, but I'm not going to run away from the situation. And then he can say once again in verse 2, for the wicked bend the bow, they make ready their arrow upon the string to shoot in darkness, the upright in heart. So when you stand with your conviction, even though the enemy tries to threaten you and tries to say, turn your faith upside down and make it useful for yourself, and that's going to be your salvation. When you stand on your conviction and you say, no, I trust the Lord then you recognize what is going on. And then you can say, oh, it was an attack. So that's just some food for thought again. God bless your day.